Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Associate sponsor, Frederic Constant Geneve.
The quest to find India's finest marketing mavericks is back as India's most challenging platform for marketing innovation. Lessons in Marketing Excellence returns with its 6th edition. Over the past 6 years, Lime has forged its way into the league of India's award-winning game shows, gaining appreciation for its efforts to showcase India's best marketing minds. Promising to be bigger and better each year, the national winners of Lime get an opportunity to participate on an international platform with winners from across 9 countries in Unilever's biggest case study challenge, Future Leaders League. This year, the theme on Lime 6 is Resurgent India. The 6th edition of the competition featured an array of new market entrants keen on stepping up their A-game in a resurgent market. Traversing the length and breadth of the country, the Lime Caravan visited 12 of India's best B schools to challenge some of the brightest minds the campus had to offer.
I thought I was at IIM Indore. I didn't know I was at a design institute.
If I have a business problem, if I have a consumer job to be done, and I want to make a film, I go to the agency which can make the best film. I will not go to the agency which will teach me how to make a film.
Constant critiquing, incessant banter and a stiff competition from campus stalwarts, the campus round being nothing short of a war zone. The wildcard round set new bars in the competition for HUL's Lipton Iced Tea. With over 1900 wildcard entries and a tough jury round, only 3 teams made it to the semi-final stage.
I could argue that mood upliftment is generic to the tea category and to the carbonated soft drinks category. That pretty much every brand delivers a benefit above mood upliftment because that's basic.
The semi-final round saw an epic battle between 15 of India's brightest B school students. However, the journey to the top 2 wasn't going to be an easy task.
Is any of them premium? All of them? I don't know. Chetan Bhagat is premium.
What in your presentation is a year 2 idea? I can see all this being done in year 1. I was hoping for more. I thought, if you do one carnival in some part of the city, it's a big country we live in. Yeah. How will this give us scale across the city or across the country?
Over 5 months of intense battle and over 3,000 teams, 2 teams stand tall today. The finalists of Lessons in Marketing Excellence Season 6 are Sopranos from SP Jain and Marketing Mavens from ISB Hyderabad. The stage is set and the teams are ready. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand finale of Lessons in Marketing Excellence Season 6. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the grand finale of Lessons in Marketing Excellence. In its 6th season now, this inter-B school marketing and business competition has given students from India's premier B schools an opportunity to stretch their imagination and define their future. But before we get into the main agenda for the evening, I'd like to invite our in-house mentor for Lime for seasons 5 and 6, who's had an opportunity to interact with all our teams this year to say a few words. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the editor of Storyboard, Anant Rangaswamy.
I do about 50, 60 episodes of Storyboard every year, and I do another 20 episodes or so of Lime. And Lime gives me 3-4 times the excitement and the passion. What is fantastic about Lime is, I think, way before brands in India started about giving back to society and, doing communication for good. In India, Hindustan Unilever got this right on year 1, which is why the finale of Lessons in Marketing Excellence is a case study which hopefully solves a problem for the country and not for a commercial objective.
Thank you, Anand, for that. Now, Bill Bernbach once said, nobody counts the number of ads you run. They only remember the impression you make. Now, the 6 successful years of partnership between the Hindustan Unilever Group and CNBC TV18 holds testimony to how we have contributed in redefining the future of our glorious country. I'd now like to invite on stage a man who's been instrumental in bringing to reality the Lime Dream. Please welcome the CEO and Managing Director of the Hindustan Unilever Group, Sanjeev Mehta.
I think it's a great partnership between CNBC and HUL that we have reached now very clearly the season 6, and I'm absolutely certain that it is going to gain more momentum and strength as the year progresses. 6 years back when we started the journey, it was all about how do we get the best minds in our country come and work on some pressing national issues. And during this period, we have dwelled on some very pressing problems. It was Aadhaar during its initial phase. It was affordable housing. It was Indian Railways. And last year, we talked about free, fair and participative elections. And at this venue, in the presence of Chief Election Commissioner, we had a chat on about how do we extol the youth of the country to come and participate in large numbers. And that prompted us to start the campaign which extolled the youth of the country to come and participate. And we were extremely gratified and satisfied that we had a large participation of youths come and exercise their franchise. So that is very clearly the power of Lime. As a consumer marketing company, we are always on the lookout for the best brains. And we always get delighted with the kind of response we get and the kind of enthusiasm we have been getting to Lime.
Associate sponsor, Frederic Constant Geneve.
This year, the finale challenge is very dear to us. Ladies and gentlemen, the case study for our top 2 teams today has come all the way from the Prime Minister's office in New Delhi. Let's take a look at what our teams have to do this evening.
A concept, a phenomenon, a wave that has taken the country by a storm. A storm that intends to sweep India spotless, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyaan. Swachh Bharat. Today's case study comes from an unprecedented campaign initiated by the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, as a nationwide cleanliness drive. It is believed that approximately 792 million Indians live without improved sanitation, of which about 597 million people continue to defecate in the open due to lack of toilets at home. In 2006, the World Bank estimated that poor sanitation costs India $53.8 billion a year, equivalent to 6.4% of GDP. Commencing on 2nd October 2014, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyaan has been promoted widely on several platforms to spread its reach to all remote corners of India. The campaign ushered contributions of 9 renowned personalities nominated by the PM himself to begin the cleanliness drive. The goal of the campaign is to create a healthy and clean India by 2019, commemorating Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary. However, the real challenge for the government to ensure the success of the campaign has only just begun. The challenge for our teams is how to inculcate long-term behavioral change in people. What is the alternative to open defecation that will give maximum reduction for every dollar spent in this initiative? And how do we create an ecosystem that ensures the maintenance and use of toilets in a sustained manner?
Well, that surely looks like a mammoth task for our teams this evening, but I'm sure the bigger task lies ahead for the jury tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the jury panel for the grand finale. Sameer Singh, Executive Director for Personal Care at Hindustan Unilever. Priya Nair, Executive Director for Home Care, also from Hindustan Unilever. Piyush Pandey, Executive Chairman and National Creative Director for South Asia at Ogilvy & Mather, India. And finally, Senthil Chengalvarayan, Editor-in-Chief for Integrated Business Newsroom at Network 18. Thank you, gentlemen, Priya, for being here this evening with us. The winners tonight win themselves a grand cash prize of 10 lakh rupees, stylish watches from Frederic Constant, and extremely high-tech G-pads courtesy Gioni for each member of the team. The runners-up get a cash prize of 3.5 lakh rupees, watches from Frederic Constant, and mobile phones from Gioni. Quite a lot of exciting goodies to be won. And ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, it's going to be a grand battle tonight. With that, it's now time to introduce to you our first team for the evening. Our first team today comes from an institute that has carved a niche and has its name etched in the annals of Lime, having been crowned winners in Season 4. Please welcome on stage Team Sopranos from SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai. Guys, Team Sopranos, before you start, let's just go over the rules again. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation. After 5 minutes, there will be a buzzer, which means it's end of time. Then we'll have a Q&A with the jury. Are you guys all set?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. All right, best of luck. Your time begins now.
We had a crystal clear objective while tackling this case. We need to sensitize the nation regarding the ill effects of open defecation and induce a sustainable behavioral change towards using a toilet. So we spoke to rural and urban India, NGOs and government officials to try to get inside the mind of the Indian and clearly understand the barrier for toilet usage. What we found is very interesting. I defecate in the open because of 3 major reasons. 1, a deep-rooted mindset. So my entire family does it. I feel healthy and wholesome doing it. 2, practical roadblocks. The toilets built are filthy. I have major space and water constraints. Building a toilet is so expensive. And finally, 3, medical ignorance. I have no idea how defecating in the open is affecting my health or anyone else's. So having understood these 3 barriers, we tried to dig in a little deeper to understand what could be the enablers to drive a behavioral change. We arrived at the insight, I will adopt a change in this everyday behavior only if I see a benefit for me and my family. So we clustered these benefits into 3. Health. I want my family to be free of diseases. Safety. I don't want my wife and daughter to be molested at night. Savings. I see some money in my pocket after building a toilet. So health, safety, and savings. Swasthya, suraksha, or savings. Based on these 3 enablers, we thought big and we thought tight and arrived at one big idea. Presenting nation sanitation, a clear 5-lever strategy that aims at bringing a fundamental change in attitude and behavior in India with respect to toilet usage. So following are the 3 important characteristics of this strategy. 1, the idea is to have a campaign driving demand for a toilet. 2, the campaign is aimed at the man of the house, the key decision maker in this respect. And finally, 3, the tone of the campaign is completely based on pride and dignity. So at the end of this, we want every single Indian to go out there and say, I'm proud of owning and using a toilet.
Our strategy, Nation Sanitation, is built on a model that has proven successful in bringing about effective behavior change in the past, the Unilever's 5 levers of change model. We begin with lever 1 of our strategy, make it understood, which aims to raise awareness. We do this in 2 phases through what we call the Billu communication strategy. Phase 1 is a nationwide campaign in vernacular languages, showing people across the country thanking someone called Billu for transforming their lives. In UP, for example, we have a farmer saying, Billu ne mere bachche ki jaan bachai.
Meri biwi Billu ke karan surakshit hai.
Billu ne mujhe har mahine mein bachat dikai.
All these messages would have the underlying theme of our 3 enablers, health, safety, and savings. This would create curiosity about who or what Billu is. In phase 2, we deliver the message with the farmer proudly introducing his friend, Billu the toilet. This communication should be delivered across media like the cell phone, TV, radio, and local art forms like street plays. Moving on to lever 2 of our strategy, make it easy. So now that people know the benefits of a toilet, we make it easy for them to adopt toilet usage. This is done by suggesting innovative, cost-effective toilet designs that take into account geography, space constraints, water availability, and cultural habits. People will be provided access to toilet brochures in vernacular languages and a Swachh Shauchalaya helpline to aid them in picking the right design as well as financing options. This would also give them a sense of ownership.
The 3rd lever is make it desirable. This is done through advocacy via the doctor's message, which is proven to be the most effective method of inducing a behavior change. We rope in other key opinion leaders like the village sarpanch. All the above communication will have the motto, Main Hu Swachh. Also, the aim of this initiative is to transform the image of a toilet from one which is functional to one being aspirational. Amitabh Bachchan will be featured in all communication to leverage a man's desire of seeing himself as a responsible, involved, and protective family man. The next step is make it rewarding. Main Hu Swachh lantern will be given to households with an installed toilet, and also they will be recognized in local newspapers. These sort of intrinsic rewards serve as the best source of motivation. Once the entire community is open defecation free, then the village as a whole will be granted a wish, which may be a computer center, free fertilizer, or anything that the village needs. Finally, the last step is to induce sustenance with the liver, make it a habit. Mobile alerts will be sent once in 3 days to households which have a latrine. Reminders will be added on TV, radio, and popular mobile entertainment channels like Khan Kajura Tesan, which will ensure widespread reach. And so, we address the issue of open defecation by tackling the barriers and giving people a strong reason to believe to use toilets. Health, safety, and savings. The three strong pillars on which this strategy is based will set off a toilet revolution in India and make this nation proud of its sanitation. Thank you.
Associate sponsor, Frederic Constant Geneve.
I got the idea of Billu, but I'm not quite sure what does Billu do. So how does he create this? Do you have some example of how you'll actually create the mindset change?
So when we bring about a behavioral change, there has to be a strong emotional connect. For example, let's go analogous to the anti-smoking campaign. It's very difficult for teens to stop smoking when you tell them smoking causes cancer. It has to be something deeper than that, that if you stop smoking, you will be able to attract that girl. So just conveying the idea of open defecation causes cholera, colitis, gastroenteritis is not going to work. We have to bring a really strong emotional connect. So, and that's how we plan to do it through the three enablers of health, safety, and savings. So when you have a toilet that's personified as a super best friend that's going to save your life, I think it has a very, and the communication is very simple, very easy to understand. So it's very easy to make that connect. If, you know, if a villager is talking to you 1:1, like the polio campaign, Amitabh Bachchan is talking to you 1:1. Similarly, if he's talking to you as one of you, saying how his friend has saved his life based on health, safety, and savings, I think it's kind of easy to make that emotional connect.
You know, the challenge we're talking about is 592 million people who defecate in the open, right? And to make a real change, you have to have something that's going to be viral, that becomes a movement. So talk to me a little bit about how you think your campaign is going to do that and really become something. But we're talking about an area which is going to the toilet. Yes. It's not the most interesting area. So how will you actually create something that's got buzz and virality around it?
So ma'am, if you look at how we started with our first lever and the second lever, this starts with being a very one-to-one communication, very individual focused. So once, you know, he has actually registered his interest, he's called up a Swachh Shauchalaya helpline and said, ki, you know, I have space constraints. Can you tell me the right kind of toilet for me? So now we've registered an individual's interest. Now we move on to a community aspect of it. So this is where it becomes, you know, make it rewarding, where you give each household who has installed a lantern outside the house. So we think that for us to have this kind of, you know, widespread reach, for this to become a revolution, it needs to have a strong community aspect. You know, social pressure has to come in. So your neighbor is going to come and, you know, tell you that even I want a lantern outside showing that I'm a man who has provided for his family. And we think that, you know, once this happens, once the full community comes together, you know, the Sarpanch will also get involved and say, now that if the whole village is declared open defecation free, then we get a wish is granted to the village. So,
just to reiterate, things that go viral, if you notice, virality, a lot of it depends on how simple your idea is. So when we just create a property around a simple lantern and a simple friend, Billu, helping you, the more simple it is, the more potential for it to be viral. And Billu has so much rural appeal. I mean, the person telling you, talking to you also is going to be a person just like you. So the simpler it is, the more viral it can go, is what we do.
And it is a two-step. One, we create the curiosity and then we communicate the message. The same has been conveyed through the Balbir Pasha, which was very effective in terms of the AIDS campaign.
You talked about that behavioral change comes through emotion. Okay. And you got one of the pillars of your strategy is savings. So, when you go and buy flowers for a woman in your life, that's emotion. And I tell you, और सस्ते भी मिलते हैं. Does it make sense? Is emotion and savings in the same space?
We actually spoke to a lot of people, a lot of NGOs, and what they told us that if you show money in the pocket, that's a very strong connect for any person. Forget rural, even the richest man will be happy if you tell him there's money in your pocket. So what we are saying is, if you build a toilet, you'll have, there are $100 billion can be saved every year if everyone builds a toilet. That's a lot of money.
You think a rural guy understands?
No, so I'm saying if you tell a rural guy कि आप अगर toilet बनाते हो, आपके जेब में 2,500 rupees per year आ जाएंगे, जो आप family पे use कर सकते हो. I think that goes a very long way.
I think you need to think a little more about it because you're spreading yourself thin.
Okay.
You can't go and tell a girl, I love you so much, I bought you these things and I got them cheap. It doesn't happen that way.
Okay, so what we're trying to do is, we're trying to make this a very aspirational thing based on pride and dignity. So if you leverage a man's desire to be a responsible person who cares about his family and tell him that, hey, you're going to get money in your pocket if you build a toilet, that somehow builds a connect with him.
And also, savings is not only financial, he also get 100 hours of productive work to study and to concentrate on his family. So that is also the message which we are conveying.
Why is this a rural problem? Why is this not an urban? I'm not talking Bombay, Delhi. It is a problem in town, cities. It's a problem across. So why is it that you only looked, was that the brief given to you? Why have you just treated this as a rural problem? Because the health effect is possibly more in crowded areas.
It's true. So during our research, we found that out of the 600 million odd people who would qualify as open defecators, there is about 60% or closer to 70% which is rural India. So we thought that for us to start off the program, it would make more sense to start off talking to the rural Indian. And once we've done that, and during the course of our research, we also found that the barriers that, to toilet usage, those are actually, they're a little different for rural and for urban India. In urban India, it would be...
So do you want to be smart? And because possibly the only barrier in urban India, and 30% of 540 is a large number, is the lack of toilet facilities.
Yes.
So did you think that it's too simple a problem to solve, so you wanted to go out and do this?
So actually, I think we kind of agree that the largest barrier is the mindset. And to tackle that, we would have to start off with the rural Indian. And once we do that, it would be easier to come to the practical roadblocks, which are, water scarcity and space constraints, which are mostly urban problems.
Thank you. That's about all the time that we have. Thank you, SP Jain. Really well done. Thank you, jury, for that fantastic round of questioning.
Associate sponsor, Frederic Constant, Genève.
Well, it's now time to meet our second and final team for the evening. And this team is a little extra special because after a really long time, an all-girls team has reached the finale at Lyme. Sprinting their way to the finals of Season 6, the team's calm demeanor and collective presence of mind has left the jury thoroughly impressed with them. Please welcome on stage Team Marketing Mavens from ISB Hyderabad. You know the rules. You'll have 5 minutes for your presentation, after which we'll have a Q&A with the jury. And after 5 minutes, there'll be a buzzer, so you know you're out of time. Are you all set?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, your time begins now.
Since its inception in October 2014, 3.8 lakh toilets have been built just under the SBM campaign. In spite of building these many toilets, India still continues to house over 50% of the world's OD population. From our secondary research, we have discovered that there are several countries with lower GDP and literacy rates and with higher poverty levels that have much lower incidence of OD. So where does the real problem lie with India? We started with primary research, where we conducted 60 face-to-face interviews across 7 villages and 5 slums in the state of Telangana, and we observed the following. In the urban slums, on average, 5% of the households had an individual toilet. Out of the 5 slums we visited, only one had a community latrine complex or CLC built with 6 toilets. However, the CLC was not in use because of the extremely poor maintenance. In the villages, the houses with individual toilets were mainly used by the women and children. The men continued to defecate in the open. These households also complained about the tedious reimbursement process. The common observations across villages and slums were, first, a designated OD site with men and women using different sides of the site. Second, most children use toilets in schools but were forced to defecate in the open when they came back home. And third, when portable toilets or biodegradable paper bags were pitched as an alternate solution to OD, the ideas were unanimously rejected.
Based on this primary research, the key insights are misconception. People associated toilets with safety but not health, and hence they believed that they were only necessary for women and children. Habitual behavior. Most of the older generation continue to defecate in the open because of lifelong habits. Lack of awareness. Most people were unaware that open defecation causes fecal-oral contamination. Cultural sensitivity. People preferred not to defecate under the same roof where they ate and cooked. OD is a deeply entrenched, multifaceted and a complicated issue in India and requires a strong and effective IEC campaigns that are context and insight specific. Thus, we propose, number one, increasing the SBM IEC budget from the currently allocated 8% to at least 30%. A comprehensive 360-degree marketing calendar for the year, which is divided into 4 phases. In quarter 1, the focus will be on spreading awareness through schema-violating visual content, for which we propose the screening of a documentary called Short Se Swachh Tak, showcasing the ill effects of fecal-oral contamination and showing motivational examples of ODF villages and countries. Coinciding with the harvest season and the festival of Holi, we propose an initiative which will include street plays involving villagers to spread the idea of Naya Saal, Nayi Soch to raise awareness. In quarter 2, the focus will be on men using slogans such as Khule mein shauch hai apman, shauchalay ka upyog hai achhe pita ki pehchan. To drive home the point, we want to show how OD affects health and compromises with their children's education and future. In quarter 3, which coincides with the festival of Diwali, the focus will be on how using latrines prevents ailments and saves money. We will also enlist school-going children to spread this message through door-to-door campaigning using Samriddhi ki aur kadam badhaएं, khule mein shauch ki aadat mitaएं. In the last quarter, which is marriage season in India, the idea is to use satirical plays using marriage as a theme that emphasizes latrine usage as a status symbol.
An alternative solution to the current government initiative is to build low-cost CLCs with the two-pit system based on the build, transfer and operate model. We propose the Swachh Bharat Vyavasayik Yojana, where the government builds 2 CLCs per 400 households and invites bids from villagers for a 1-year contract. The winning bidder will operate the CLC and pay a monthly rent to the government based on the bid amount. Each household that will use the toilet has to pay Rs 60 at the beginning of the month and will get a coupon for each family member for monthly usage. To incentivize the continuous usage of these CLCs, we propose handing out utility hampers on a quarterly basis. The CLC operators will use the revenue generated for the maintenance of the toilets and will keep the remaining as profits. The presence of more than one operator in a village will ensure that they compete to maintain these toilets. In the slums, where there will typically be only one toilet complex, the same model will be replicated using self-help groups, and the people part of these SHGs will be further incentivized with free health care for all sanitation-related ailments for their children under the age of 10. In summary, we provide a solution that creates a self-sustaining ecosystem, encourages entrepreneurial culture, and induces long-term behavioral change in the community. Thank you.
How have you come to these conclusions? Because one of the most successful models, I believe, exists in Bangladesh,
right,
where with lower per capita income, they've made a huge strides in reducing open defecation. I think the rates are like 1/10 of India.
Right.
Have you taken some learnings from there? Because I understand they work, it's not so much CLCs, but much more of individual open pit toilets. So have you studied that model?
Right now the government is giving a lot of money to build the latrines. Still there are a lot of houses in which the latrines are being used as storage spaces, or they're being used as bathrooms to take bath. So people are taking the money from the government, building it and not using it. That is how we came up with the idea that if we focus on things like we already discussed, that older men are not using the washrooms right now. They think it's pretty cool to do outside. So we thought that if we can tap on insights like these and come up with a solution wherein a person pays upfront at the beginning of the month, there'll be some kind of escalation of commitment on his part that he's already paid for it. And that would induce, at least he'll be like, let the women and the children of the house start using it, and eventually he'd follow path. That is how we've come up to this solution.
You know, the challenge is also one, and let me tell you what I'm saying, it's also for the woman. Because remember, once they're the toilets, and you have referred to it, but I don't see enough of thinking around that, is who actually cleans the toilets. I can tell you it's not the man in the house who's going to clean the toilets. Right. Yeah. So if we actually don't think about this, and really the impact it has on the women in the house, because they have to get the water, they have to clean the toilets. So really they are getting affected quite deeply by it, and you know, that's something that, did you think about, talk about, and how do you address?
I'll take it.
Well, actually, we did speak about this with some of the villages and slums that we went to. Women clean their houses as is. I mean, they're the ones who clean the kitchen, the bedrooms, etc. So they don't mind. They, in fact, like to have clean surroundings for their kids, especially, and for the rest of their family. So cleaning the toilets is not a problem. The problem comes when there's community toilets and they have to clean someone else's dirty job. So that's the problem. But if we actually get someone else to do it and we give them a financial incentive, that's when I think we can get them to maintain clean facilities. So cleaning indoors is not a problem. If they have individual toilets in their house, I think they're more than willing to clean it and use something in the house instead of going out there in the in the open with snakes and whatnot. So.
Associate sponsor, Frederic Constant Geneve.
It's not about campaigns. It's about what will bring about the change. And from youngsters like yourselves, I want radical answers to say, damn it, no sarpanch can be a sarpanch if he does not do that. Now that's a legislative change. And I think you guys are young enough to make those kind of pushes. It's not about, did your line work better than my line or her line or anybody's line. Did you think about it, or you went with the flow and addressed questions the way they were asked in the exercise that you're doing? Did you say, this goddamn exercise is all nonsense, I have better answers? Did you think about it, or you got intimidated by the procedure? That's my question.
Yeah. So, sir, I'd like to say this, that when we read the whole Swachh Bharat case initially and when we were only brainstorming by ourselves, some of the radical ideas that came to us were about portable toilets and biodegradable bags. Like there's this form that does work like this in Africa. It's called pee-poo bags. So we looked at things like this, but we decided to first go do primary research, validate these ideas before we put them in. So when we spoke to people, we realized that a lot of people, just the idea of holding a bag when they are defecating, they were not okay with that idea. So that's how the whole portable toilet, plastic bags, biodegradable bags, all of those ideas we came up with them, then we had to discard them. And that's how we finally decided that, keeping in mind that slums have space constraint, building something like a CLC, like a community latrine complex, and then getting people to use them on a monthly basis would probably work out for India.
So since we deal a lot with money, it quietly slipped in that you'd like to see the budget go up from 8 to 30%. That's a huge jump. Who are you going to convince? Are you going to convince government to put that money in? Are you going to make it entrepreneur driven, so the money will come in from PPPs, private sector? How are you going to get this 8 to 30% jump?
Sir, at present, the previously allocated budget for IEC was 15%. Has been brought down to 8% currently. So even now, if you into the Swachh Bharat, the guidelines, it basically says that some of this money is basically going to come as part of PPP. Some of it is basically going to come from the budget, which comes from the different corporates through CSR, and the government is going to put a part of it. Some part the state government, and the rest of it comes from the community as well. So we are saying that, I know that 30% is a large amount as far as the budget is concerned, but the point is that currently building toilets is not the solution. You may waste a lot of money building toilets, but people are not going to use it. So at least in the first phase, at least maybe the first couple of years, the budget for the IEC needs to be increased so that you can really penetrate in the population and pass on the message. Because 8% in a huge country like India, we have 200 million households, 60% the rural areas.
So this is 8% of what? 8, and what do you want to...
Of the allocated budget.
Of the budget. Of the allocated budget.
Of the allocated budget.
Allocated budget of SBM.
Swachh Bharat.
Okay. Have you thought about where you will get that money from? Because this will mean, if you're going to increase this to 8 to 30%, it will mean cutting down budget somewhere else.
So the alternative solution that we came up with is the government will build the toilets, but then the responsibility of them, it will be run like a business through these entrepreneurial groups, and they will actually be getting money from households to to be able to use these complexes, and they will make sure that they clean it, maintain it well. So it's like a revenue generating business for them. So in that way, the government will actually not have to spend as much money on building facilities, and they'll have more savings where they can spend on what is more important, which is, we think, which is awareness. Because they can build as many toilets, like she mentioned, as they can, but then getting people to use it is the big deal.
Let's have a huge round of applause for marketing Mavens. Well done, Team ISB. Thank you so much.
Lime is got a role to play in encouraging people to think about issues which are topical. It is encouraging a very healthy competition at a level of education which is good for this country. The boys and girls coming out of these institutes are the future. And therefore, Frederic Constant, the brand that we have brought to this property, would like to see how to be a good partner to help Lime achieve what it wants.
Associate sponsor, Frederic Constant, Genève.
The results this evening, as has been through the series, is being tabulated by EY. And while the process is going on, I'd like to invite back on stage Anant Rangaswamy for a very interesting panel that he's going to conduct. Can we have you back on stage? All right, so this panel will be aiming to decode the key to the success of the Swachh Bharat Abhiyaan. I'd like to invite the panelists up on stage who will be joining Anant. We have Sanjeev Mehta from HUL. Sanjeev, if we can have you back on stage. Malvika Mehra from Grey Worldwide India. Mr. Piyush Pandey, if we can have you here on the panel as well. And Mr. CVL Srinivasan from Group N.
So start with Malvi. You're working on this campaign now. So tell us, you heard these students, and how big a task is this?
I think it's huge, but I think in a very simplistic manner, I think it's about starting small. And I think it's about starting young, really, if I can really put it that way. We may be kind of, missing the big point, which is while the man supposedly runs the house, I think there's so much the woman of the house really can control. And I think in teaching her kids or what we can do in schools, really. So I think the problem is big, but I think you have to take like baby steps towards it. And it's starting young and it's starting small, I would say.
Piyush, it's now about 30 odd years you're working on various products in this category, to do with hygiene and cleanliness and so on and so forth. What is happening in the last 5-6 years that suddenly it's captured the imagination of everybody? It's not just urban India, rural India, everywhere.
There comes a time when something gets importance, and I think what the kids have done today and what all of us need to do is that keep this at the back of our head all the time. And if this is something that's being talked about, it's going to be long. Behavior changes are not easy. Food habit changes are not easy. All these things take time. We have to be at it. And I think every little thing that we do, we may not find the results to that. But I'm very glad that today it's a topic that we discuss or hear or read about on a day-to-day basis. It will come. I'm very, very optimistic that things will change. We will be as good as Singapore one day in the next 5 years. I am optimistic. And if we all work towards it.
Sanjeev, Unilever, Hindustan Unilever and Unilever globally has been, focused on this area for quite some years. It's not just after Swachh Bharat was announced or something. How much of a fillip is it for you and all your efforts for the Prime Minister suddenly to say, this is the most important thing we need to do?
Huge. Like if we look at it over the years, amongst the private organization, we were one of the very few who were working on changing human behavior. And now you have huge number of corporates getting into the act, and it's building into a momentum, people's movement. And that's very important, and it gives a huge fillip. As Piyush rightly said, there's never been a better time to create a better future for the country. Yeah, and when you talk about a future, you can't have a better future without a clean India. No question about that. Yeah.
Srini, one of the teams brought it, rather, I think the jury brought it up, Senthil brought it up, about lots of, we need to communicate in places which are media dark and media shy. How do you deal with this problem? Because it needs to happen. You can't have a sparkling urban India and a not so sparkling rural India.
Yeah, firstly, I think while it's a very, very complicated problem, it's obviously multidimensional and all of that. I mean, I wish I could take a sabbatical from my work and just, do some media planning on this kind of a problem. Seriously, I think in terms of, like somebody said, it's not just a campaign. It's not just an ad campaign. It's not just a slogan. It's not just a couple of advertisements. But I think perhaps after the freedom movement, it's probably the biggest movement that this country is going to see or needs to see. And if you see what all went into, awakening people, for them to go and, fight for freedom. And if you look at, what one needs to probably do here, the task is really mammoth. It's massive. So I wouldn't be too worried about a few media dark pockets here and there, because I think as long as souls awaken, the word would spread.
Anyway, let's not punish the participants anymore. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Piyush. Thank you, Malu. Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you, Srini. And
thank you, Anand.
Over to the MC once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen. The winners today are winning a grand cash prize of 10 lakh rupees, watches from Frederic Constant Geneve, D-pads from Gioni. The winner is...
We're feeling really great because this is the first time in ISB's history that anyone's won Lime. So it was completely unexpected for us, and I'm sure it was unexpected for most people at ISB as well. But we're glad to have done this, and it's made the whole experience more memorable for us to do this for the team and for the school. So we're very happy.
So 3 key takeaways, I think. First one
is awareness. First is awareness. People need to be educated on why it's important to use toilets and not defecate out in the open. Because I think, as we said in our presentation, most people don't realize how bad it is for their own health and their kids' health and their future. So I think they need to be educated on that.
Secondly, I think what is important is monitoring of the whole program, because if you're going to have a program in place, you're going to build toilets, but not ensure that people are using it, it makes no sense again. Like we've already said that in our presentation, we've actually gone to villages and seen people use toilets as places for storage of goods and food substances. So we feel that it's very important that there should be some monitoring and some evaluation in place to see whether the Gram Panchayat is doing what they're supposed to do.
The third key takeaway, I think, like the judges mentioned, 65% of India's population is the youth. So guys, it's our responsibility. Charity begins at home. So start off by not littering the roads. That's the beginning of Swachh Bharat. And I think things will take their own course with time. The penetration will happen with time. But the youth really need to come forward and volunteer more and do a better job with taking the lead on Swachh Bharat.
Associate sponsor, Frederic Constant Geneve.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.